Hello and welcome to Aico TV, the first new episode of 2022. I'm Alex Garmston.
And I'm Holly Moore.
And today we have an action-packed episode for you, and here's what's coming up. First up, our Managing Director Neal Hooper will talk to Carl Jones from Shropshire Business Live about our community awards.
Next, our National Technical Manager, Andy Speake, will guide us through the updates to the England 2015 regulations for smoke and carbon monoxide alarms.
Finally, our Community Liaison Officer, Lily Ellis, sits down with Leanne Simcoe from Little Stars Baby Bank.
And lastly, we'll answer an FAQ on the Scottish legislation update.
I'm excited to announce that this year we are launching our Aico in the Community Awards with Aico and HomeLink. These will be going ahead on the 12th of May. So in this section of Aico TV, we'll have Neal Hooper, our Managing Director, talking to Carl Jones from Shropshire Business Live TV to discuss the Community Awards. Carl quizzes Neal on the reasoning behind the awards, why we're doing them, and let's take a look at what they had to say.
Carl Jones here from Shropshire Business Live TV. From one TV studio to another, I've come over to the Aico TV studio today to find out more about their community awards. And there's many very good reasons why I'd want to do that. One, it's always good to catch up with Neal, the Managing Director of Aico. But two, thank you very much, Neal, for inviting me to get involved in helping to host these awards next year.
Once we knew you could make May the 12th, Carl, that was it. Everything else just followed after
It's very kind of you to fit it around me. So Neal, let's start from the beginning. Tell me about the awards. Why, how, when, where?
I'll try and remember that.
Let's start with the why. That's always the most important question, isn't it? Why are you doing them?
Well, Aico, over the years, has been very lucky to win a number of awards, and we attend the event. Colleagues attend the events. It's always great to go out, isn't it, to a black tie do and put on your posh frocks, etc., and have an evening out. And more importantly, if you win an award, there's the great recognition. But if you don't, then when you look at the criteria required and you don't win the award, or even if you do win the award, but if you don't win the award, you can see the areas where you need to improve as a company. Yeah. So we always head into entering awards knowing it's a win, because we either do win or we don't, but we know what we have to do better as a company. Not to win the award, to be better as a company, because of the things that we're falling down on. So the first important thing was we enter awards and we sponsor awards as well, because we see a lot of award ceremonies around the country that do a great deal of good, and we want to be part of it, particularly within our own industry. So the natural progression then from my colleagues was, why don't we hold an awards evening? Simple as.
And we now know it's happening on the 12th of May, and
we do,
and it's going to be at the ICC in Birmingham, isn't it? So
it is. It is May the 12th, and it's community awards. We're very much involved in the community with our CSR. It's one of our values, supporting communities, safer communities. Our products are life safety, and being involved particularly with social housing. We see a fantastic amount of initiatives. Social housing within the press can get an absolute pummeling at times. And we know, because we work with all of the main social housing providers, we have a 90% market share. We work with private landlords as well, work with the house builders. We know the amount of community work that goes on within these organisations, and we want it to be recognised. And we feel the best way to do that is to hold a very, very large event in Birmingham at the ICC, where we invite people to nominate for the 11 awards that we're holding, and then we can recognise them for the great work that they do.
So run us through some of the category titles then, and the kind of awards that you're looking for.
We have Community Initiative of the Year, we have Women in Fire Safety, we have Installer Initiative, right through to our distributors, though we're covering the whole of our supply chain. We're looking at sustainability, environmental impacts. So all of them are listed on our website. We're doing a lot of social media activity on them already. And I would urge anybody and everybody to look at it and to enter or to nominate somebody else, because this isn't about being the largest or the most financially successful business. This is purely about what are people doing in the community, and we know that there is an awful lot and we want to recognise it.
And who's is this eligible to enter this? Is it, there's no geographic area, you don't have to be an Aico employee, a customer, a client, a patron, how does it work?
It's the UK. It's the UK, so it's the Community Awards, so anybody and everybody doing anything within their community, please enter. And obviously we're Shropshire based, we're in Oswald Street. I know there are a tremendous amount of companies that do great community work in Shropshire, and I would urge them to get involved as well. It would be wonderful, we won't be biased. There is a judging panel from all around the UK, so we won't be biased, but it would be wonderful if a business from Shropshire was able to walk away with one of the awards.
Well, an opportunity for them to win a national award, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. There'll be 300 people there on the night. It will be videoed, it will be screened, we will stream it afterwards. We'll be advertised a hell of a lot on social media. We get a lot of hits on our website. So there'll be a lot of coverage. We definitely will have the press there as well. Hopefully SBLT will get involved.
Oh, I'm sure we will. I'm sure we will. Now you've fitted your calendar around us. So and what about the judging panel? Who will be judging it? Will you be bringing in, quite a lot of outsiders from different
We have the Chartered Institute of Housing, the CEO, Gavin will be involved. The Electrical Industries Charity, the Chief Executive, will be involved as well. Tessa, we've invited Dame Judith to be on the panel as well. So really we're looking at people who are already involved in the community, whether it's a charity, whether it's making a difference to housing in the UK, which Dame Judith definitely is. We've got George Clark there on the night as a speaker, who's doing a tremendous amount for housing in this country through his TV presenting and obviously his articles in the press as well.
The restoration man, isn't he?
Absolutely, right, yeah. And he's already appeared on one of our webinars and was incredibly engaging. A great view. So we're delighted that you're headlining and George will be there as well, Carl.
I think it's the other way around, actually. So talk about some of the timelines then. When have nominations got to be in, and then what happens with shortlisting, and what's the process?
We've started advertising, so the information is already on the website. It's May the 12th when we actually hold the event, so the month before that will be the cut-off. So people have effectively got 4 months to get the nominations in for us to look at 3.5 months to get the nominations in, look at the shortlisting, and then we will invite all of the people shortlisted to come. We will invite people throughout the country to come, people who want to be there, because we want to turn it into a tremendous celebration. So you'll be holding the evening together. George Clark will be doing the speech. We will have a 3-course dinner for everybody. We have hotel rooms already booked for everybody who attends. Obviously, there will be plenty of wine and champagne flowing.
And I know you've got a few more other surprises potentially in store.
We are looking to book a top comedian to finish the evening off as well. We want it to be a real celebration, a great evening to remember.
Do you see this becoming an annual event then, hopefully?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yeah.
Excellent. And I mean, from the work that you do in the community and the community awards that Aico has won, what it takes and the kind of things that judges tend to be looking for. So have you got any top tips for anybody that's watching this out there about what they need to do to catch the judge's eye then? What sort of things?
That's a good question. With every criteria there are bullet points, highlights that we're looking for. 750 words per entry, which is more than enough for people to extol their virtues. I think really in a nutshell, community, it does what it says on the tin. What are you giving? What are you giving for those most in need? What are you producing? What are you providing? What are you up to? And that's essentially what we'll be judging on. I think there are going to be six of us on the panel, so that's what we'll be looking at.
I said there's so many stories out there. I suspect that potentially you could be inundated with some great stories.
I hope so. I really hope so, Carl, because it's what I said. It's about what you are doing. That when you enter an award, it's about what you're looking. You look at the criteria, and then you hold a mirror up to yourself. Are we doing this well enough anyway? Forget the award. We're not actually doing this. We should be better. So the more companies that actually look at the criteria and think we could go for that, the better, because they're going to improve anyway, because it will highlight where they're good and where they could be even better. And of course, those that then shortlist will get the recognition for the work they are doing, and then hopefully the rest of us will aspire and think, you know what, that what they're doing there is absolutely fantastic. We could do that because there's no reason why whether you're a large company like Aico, whether you're a smaller company, whether you're even a 1 or 2 man band, there's no reason why we can't give back to the community.
And this awards event itself, in a way, is doing exactly that anyway, isn't it? So
yes, I think through holding the reason we're having the awards is we want to recognise and we want to help. So again, it's part of our CSR process by having these awards and highlighting what people are doing, and then the winners and all of the profile that will then create. Hopefully, then that will help other communities, because we'll all see what these people are doing. And there's some fantastic stories out there already that we're aware of, and I really hope as many people enter as possible, and let's have an evening to remember.
Absolutely. So there we go. Entries are open. It's all on the Aico website. You can find out all about the criteria, and I look forward to seeing you and everybody else is shortlisted on May the 12th. Thanks, Neal.
Thanks, Carl. Thank you.
It was great to hear from Neal and Carl there about the community awards, the nomination process and how you can enter. Just to let you know, there is 11 award categories for the community awards. You can find out more information on our website. There's a massive banner on the homepage that you can click for more information about the awards. And also, if you email marketing@aico.co.uk, you can get your award entry nomination forms sent to you. So please enter as soon as possible, and we look forward to receiving your entry. Thank you.
Next up, our National Technical Manager, Andy Speake, is going to guide us through the legislation changes that are going to affect smoke and carbon monoxide alarms in both socially and private rented properties in England. We'll go over to him now to see what has changed.
Hello and welcome, and in this presentation we're going to be looking at changes affecting the rented market in England. So we're going to look into what is the current situation in England. What are the changes that we're looking to introduce? Why are those changes coming into force? How can we achieve them? And then we'll drill into a little bit more detail about what that means to a private landlord or a social landlord, for example. So to start with, I'd just like to recap exactly mentioning what the current situation is in the market at the moment. So we have our British standards. We love our British standards, top level documents, regularly up to date. However, British standards are exactly just that. They are standards. They're not legally binding. There's no obligation for people to follow the British standards, just a recommendation. We have our building regulations. We also have legislation. So this is where law does come into it. Anything which is legislated against, then that has to be abided by. And we have various pieces of legislation that we'll look into in a bit more detail. So to kind of recap on what the current British standards say. So just to highlight again, this presentation is purely focused on England. Although the British Standard 5839 Part 6 affects UK-wide, so UK-wide document. And essentially for a landlord, it is recommending a minimum of a grade D1 in a rented property. I say minimum, it may be above that, but for the most part, it would be a D1 in a rented property. And again, a minimum of an LD2, depending on the property type. So we're typically talking an alarm installed on the hallway, the landing, the principal habitable room, which is most likely to be the living room in most cases, as well as a heat alarm in the kitchen. The British Standard recommends that all these alarms should be interconnected, and we know what a grade D1 alarm is. It's a mains powered alarm with a long life, tamper-proof, sealed battery backup in there. We have a similar British standard for carbon monoxide, maybe lesser known, but equally just as important, which is BSEN 50292. And to kind of summarise the whole standard within a few bullet points, essentially it's asking you to install an alarm, or ideally you should have an alarm installed in every single room containing a fuel burning appliance. Additionally, it suggests that you might look to install alarms where occupants spend most of their time, potentially installing alarms in rooms where the flue might run through. or easily locating an alarm in a room containing the flueless or open flued appliance. An example of that would be a cooker. Then we've got our building regulations. The building regulation for carbon monoxide is Part J. So the guidance document, approved document J, asks for a CO alarm to be installed in any room with a new or replacement solid fuel burning appliance. And the interesting point to point out here is that word solid. So historically this is in there because there's a lot more data from the coal board, from the coal industry, from the solid fuel burning industry, when the changes were put into the regulations. And that's why the word solid's in there. However, we know that other fuel sources are just as capable of giving off carbon monoxide as solid fuel sources. Then we move to our legislation. So currently in England, we have the private rented smoke and carbon monoxide regulations. Came in 2015, and it was never the strongest of documents. In fact, by comparison, it's actually quite weak compared to what we've got in Scotland and in other areas. But this only affects private landlords, and this requested that every private landlord in their properties has a working smoke alarm installed on every floor of the property. Didn't go into detail about what grade of alarm system, what category, where they should be installed, whether they should be interconnected, none of that detail, just making sure that there was at least a smoke alarm installed on every floor. It also said a working CO alarm should be installed in every room containing, again, that word solid, fuel burning appliance. So that's currently what we have for private landlords in England. Then when it comes to all landlords, we can extend that. We also have the Homes Act and the Housing, Health and Safety Rating System. So this highlights multiple different elements that a landlord needs to meet to make their property fit for human habitation. 29 elements to be precise. We've highlighted a number of those on this slide here: fire safety, CO, damp ventilation, excess heat and cold. So these are areas, for a start, where a tenant has a case to actually hold the landlord accountable if they're not meeting the minimum requirements on this. But again, it's another key area where landlords should be abiding to the requirements. So that's currently what we have. So let's fast forward to kind of present day and have a look into these changes and what they are and where they're coming from. So back at the tail end of 2020, a consultation was opened up, asking for views on whether the existing legislation and regulation is apt, is it appropriate, should it be extended. This consultation was featured alongside a charter for social housing residents. It was a white paper looking at various different reforms to improve safety of tenants in properties. So the consultation asked a few different questions. It was questioning whether landlords having that private rented landlord should be extended to all landlords, including social rented properties as well. It was questioning whether the fact that CO alarms currently only used for solid fuel burning appliances, whether that should be extended for all fuel burning appliances. And it was also asking whose responsibility should it be for installing, maintaining these alarms? Whose responsibility might it be to test these alarms? How can landlords support these? Does there need to be a grace period when these changes come into force, or do we need to give that some consideration to how much time landlords are going to need to do this? And also, is the current documentation and guidance on installing these alarms sufficient at the moment? So, in total, there was over 161 responses to the consultation. There was many different private landlords, NRLA, the NFCC, BSI, FIA, various different representative bodies had all fed into this, including all party parliamentary groups, fire and rescue bodies as well. So really, really good response to the consultation, and overwhelmingly, majority absolutely were in favour of extending this private rented legislation to include the social rented sector as well. So that makes it nice and simple. All rented property in England is now the same, whether it be social rented or privately rented when it comes to smoke and CO alarms. Also suggested that the guidance on where the alarms should be installed, should be updated. It should be the landlord's responsibility to repair or replace the alarms if faulty. Here's a key one, this fourth bullet point down, making sure that all fuel burning appliances are covered with a CO alarm, not just solid fuel burning appliances. It would remain to be the tenant's responsibility for testing the alarms, but there was a really strong appetite for these changes to commence as soon as possible. These are life safety products going into a life safety situation, so as soon as we can implement this, the more lives potentially could be saved. So let's look into how this is going to affect individual and different landlords. So if you're a private landlord, you'll already have been fitting to the private rented legislation. It's not the strongest, and from my experience, many private landlords already go above and beyond that, but you should already be meeting those minimum requirements on there. However, private landlords have only been installing CO alarms previously with solid, or only needed to install at least with solid fuel burning appliances. So now they are going to have to ramp that up and include a CO alarm with all fuel burning appliances. Social rented, well, social landlords, although they weren't already under the legislation affecting private landlords for smoke alarm installation, majority of them have been going way above and beyond that and have been installing as per the British standard BS 5839 Part 6 for quite some time. And they look to keep up to date with that, as that British standard is updated every 5 years typically. So they try to keep up to date. So it's not going to have a huge impact on the social landlords who are already meeting those requirements. However, again, when we look at CO, it is going to have an impact. From my experience, many social landlords do already have a CO program in place, but may not have covered all of their properties. Some social landlords won't have a CO alarm program in place, so we'll be looking to do that straight away. It's important to mention as well, the requirements to have a CO alarm with any fuel burning appliance does exclude cookers. Now that's still a recommendation in the British standard. It's still a recommendation of ours. Cookers are just as capable of being at risk of giving off carbon monoxide as any other fuel burning appliance. But in the legislation regarding the legal requirements, cookers have been exempt from that for a new number of reasons. As I said before, it remains a landlord's responsibility for installing, repairing and replacing the alarms, of course, once they're informed that they are faulty. It will remain the tenant's responsibility to test those alarms. The most current guidance is recommending monthly testing of all alarms. And the alarms should meet the minimum product standards, which is BSEN 14604 for smoke alarms and BSEN 50291 Part 1 for CO alarms. It's also suggested that updated guidance will be following the changes that are going to come out, and it's expected that this guidance is most likely going to be signposting to standards such as BS 5839 Part 6 for knowing where to install smoke alarms. Also signposting to BSEN 50292 for installation of carbon monoxide alarms. So let's try and summarise those changes and what the key messages and what needs to be achieved. So smoke alarms need to be installed in every floor in all rented properties in England. Well, as we've discussed a few times throughout this presentation, private landlords should already be doing that. Social landlords are already going way above and beyond that. And the recommendation is to actually follow the British standard 5839 Part 6. So nice and clear on that. The next point is going to have a larger impact though. Carbon monoxide alarms need to be fitted in every room containing a fuel burning appliance. Except cookers, but still, that is going to have a big impact. These changes aren't just going to affect legislation in existing properties, they are going to form part of an updated approved document J. So all new build and materially altered properties are also going to have a CO alarm in every room containing a fuel burning appliance. There was a strong appetite for these changes to become effective as soon as possible. And that was reported within the consultation results. Ministers feel very passionately about delivering what the consultation results have asked for. So we're hoping for this to come into force as soon as possible. We haven't been given a definite date. It's looking most likely to be late on 2022. It's certainly not going to be any later than early 2023. And there's a very good possibility it could be sooner. So the best advice we can give to landlords is to install alarms at the earliest opportunity. As far as the government's concerned, the results being published to the consultation is notice to landlords that this is coming into force and there will be no grace period for compliance. So whether that be coming into force early October or autumn, that kind of time, that's when it will be enforceable. It will remain the landlord's responsibility to install and maintain, tenant's responsibility to test, And the actual alarms can be battery powered or mains powered when it comes to the CO alarm. So it depends on what's easiest. They don't necessarily have to be interconnected with the fire alarms, although that does remain an option if tenants wish to do that, or sorry, if landlords wish to do that, but it's not a legal requirement of this legislation. A few other considerations along this, bearing in mind that it's been made very clear that it remains the tenant's responsibility to test the alarms. That's not always the easiest thing to accomplish. Certainly if the tenant has reduced mobility, maybe higher needs tenant or maybe elderly. So just to point out, there are low-level test switches available to make it a lot easier to test the alarm, but equally to locate and silence nuisance alarms. Another point to highlight, again, where potentially more higher risk of vulnerable tenants, potentially you might have deaf and hard of hearing needs in there. So again, there are strobes, there are vibrating pads available on the market. They can easily be interconnected with existing systems via RF, so minimal cable involved. And then it comes to how easy is it for landlords to keep track of this. I've spoken to several landlords about these changes, and many of them are unsure about exactly where their properties are up to. Even those who do have CO programs in place, they're not necessarily aware of what properties have them in, what properties don't, and what point is in there. And there's two easy ways of getting that information, which is via data extraction. We offer two ways. One is a direct download method, using audio link. Another method is remote, and we have a gateway home link solution available for that. So Audio Link has been available on the market for a good long time. It's an app freely available in the iOS store, the Google Play Store. Just search for Aico, search for Audio Link, and you'll soon find it. You don't need any Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, NFC on the phone. It uses the phone's built-in microphone to receive that data via a series of digital binary beeps and convert it into a report. That report can then be saved on the phone, giving you detailed information over the age of the alarm, any particular issues, where it's gone into alarm state, and can even be emailed off as well. So really, really important. However, the limitation with Audio Link is the fact that you do need to be present within the property with the alarm, and you can only do one alarm at a time. However, if you want to take that the next step further, we have remote data extraction. That's available via the Home Link solution. We have a dashboard, we have a Smart Link gateway that's able to get data directly out of multiple alarms within the property, as well as additional sensors, and send them to the cloud where a landlord can access all that information centrally. It makes it a lot easier for landlords to be able to keep track exactly on what alarms are installed, what is the status of those alarms, are they working, have they been tampered with, are they in alarm state, have they been tested recently, do they need to be tested, how many alarms are due for replacement. So it's a really simple, easy way for landlords to keep track of their fire, carbon monoxide alarms, as well as additional sensors within their housing stock in a nice central method. So that pretty much summarises the presentation and gives you an idea of where we're going with this. So just to emphasise the key messages is this is happening very, very soon. It will be enforceable, there'll be zero grace period. So the best advice we can give to landlords is to install CO alarms or any other alarms if you're not complying, but to these minimum requirements at the earliest opportunity. There'll be information available on our website. You're welcome to give us a call and we'll discuss this in more detail with you. Thank you very much.
So thank you to Andy for guiding us through the changes. Hopefully now you know what has changed and why, and also what you need to do to comply with the new legislation. But if you do need any support, you can contact us or visit our website. Next, we're going to go to a quick advert.
For the final section of today's episode, we're going to hear from our Community Liaison Lily Ellis, who's going to be speaking to the founder of Little Stars Baby Bank, Leanne Simcoe. They're going to talk about how the charity was formed and how they are the charity of the year for 2022 for Aico. Let's go over to Leanne and tell us how she formed the Little Stars Baby Bank charity.
Hi, I'm Lily Ellis, Community Liaison at Aico, and today I'm joined by Leanne Simcoe, founder of Little Stars Baby Bank.
Hi Lily.
Thanks for joining me today, Leanne. So, you started this charity in the midst of a pandemic. What was that like?
Yeah, it was really full on, and it has just snowballed since launching.
So, Little Stars Baby Bank, tell me about the charity, what you do, and what your aims and goals are.
Yeah, so Little Stars was established to be able to provide baby essentials to those who needed them most across all of Shropshire, and part of that was providing equipment as well as clothing and the essentials as nappies and wipes, and then we're also really proud to provide the hospital backpack for mum as well, for when she needs it to go into hospital. In terms of what we're looking now for the future, we are looking at school uniforms and extending our range from 0 to 5 years to actually 0 to teens, so that we can support even more children that are in need of clothing and school uniforms, etc.
So that's really exciting. So I know you set up the charity because you found there was a gap in the market within our county of Shropshire. So how did that come about?
Yeah, so that just basically came from I had quality baby items from my 2 children, and I was at the end of my maternity leave, and I wanted them to go to families that could really benefit from them. And my husband had said, well, if there's food banks, surely there's baby banks, and he was right. They were all over the country, but there was none in Shropshire. So that's how it came about, and why I decided to go with it and launch, because I thought, well, if I want to give these items, maybe other people, and then of course organisations, to be able to come and use the services as well.
So you're going to be growing your charity from, a charity for babies and their mums to primary school and further afield. So how are you going to facilitate that, and what measures do you need to take?
Yeah, so I'm really lucky, and we have been selected as Aico's Charity of the Year, and that has come about from them knowing about us and yourselves, working with yourself and Jane early in our setup, so that you found out what we were all about, and of course before that happened and becoming Aico's Charity of the Year, you helped us with our marketing and our branding. You gave us time, because it might not come as a surprise, but I have no marketing expertise, and so what I was putting together wasn't really standing out, and just by having someone with those expertise, which was Alex within your team, they were able to create the Little Stars brand, which is why I've got the roller banner behind me today, because that is what has been created, and now will be known moving forward, which is just incredible. Also is we did a video, so you came and recorded a video for us to put on our website, because not everyone likes to read what organisations are about, and sometimes they do just like to watch a quick video, and so of course I had the expertise from Matt and yourself to come and help with that, which was just fantastic. So
yeah. So other than Aico, you've had a good amount of corporate support within the region and in your area. How important has that been within setting up the charity and making sure you're reaching those people who need it most?
Well, yeah, it takes a weight off your shoulders for sure, because so we've got a local supermarket that gives us help. They do the pick-up packs. That allows us to continually have stocks for our hospital backpacks, but also allows us to have stocks for the nappies, the wipes, the creams, and then all the toiletries that goes with that as well. And as I say, somebody picking up a pack will spend £2, but if we had to do that out of our own funds, obviously for the amount of children that we help, that money would soon disappear. So having that community support from the customers of the supermarket is just incredible, and the fact that they're putting that in their store is amazing.
It's clearly telling that you've kind of mounted all these businesses and all of these funds, and it's a real testament to what you've been able to achieve in such a short time and in such a unprecedented time, you know, while working and being a mum yourself. Like, how has that all been in total?
Yeah, it's been a juggle because, as you alluded to there, I have been working full time while trying to get Little Stars off the ground. But anybody who knows me personally knows that I'm tenacious, so it is something that I truly believed in. And as we launched it, as we were getting those referrals coming through the organisations, we realised how much the need is there, and I do feel that we've only scratched the surface. And again, none of that would have been possible without the CSR support from yourselves, from the supermarkets, because we wouldn't be where we are now without that. You know, it's not always all about money going into the account. Sometimes it is just using somebody's expertise and spending an hour on something and using those tools that they know that I don't, just to push it forward, which is incredible.
Well, thanks for joining me today, Leanne, and Aico are really looking forward to working with you in the next 12 months.
Thank you.
With the Scottish legislation deadline fast approaching, which is the 1st of February of this year, after it's been moved back 12 months due to the pandemic, lots of changes involved, deadline fast approaching. Holly is now going to introduce an FAQ that can help you understand the changes and where you can get more information.
Yeah, so Alex summed it up very nicely there. Our technical advisor, Owen Terry, is going to guide you through everything you need to know to comply with the new Scottish legislation.
In February of 2019, the Scottish Government announced legislation changes to all properties in Scotland for your fire and carbon monoxide alarms. The deadline for these legislation changes was to be February 2021, however this has been pushed back due to COVID to 2022, the start of February. All properties in Scotland must have a smoke alarm in the circulation spaces of the escape routes, such as hallways and landings, with a smoke alarm in your principal habitable room, which is usually generalised as the living area. You must also have a heat detector within your kitchen and have a carbon monoxide alarm next to any fuel burning appliance within the property that is not solely used for cooking. This would include any extended or concealed fluids from any fuel burning appliance. All fire alarms within your property must be interconnected. These can be interconnected either via hardwired interconnection via 3/4 earth cable, or they can be interconnected via radio frequency. Carbon monoxide alarms do not need to be interconnected with each other, nor do they need to be interconnected with your fire alarm system. All fire alarms within your property need to be either mains powered or battery powered. Mains powered alarms can either have a 9-volt replaceable battery backup, or you can have a tamper-proof long life lithium cell. All fire alarms that are battery powered must have a tamper-proof long life sealed lithium battery. Carbon monoxide alarms can be either mains or battery powered. The mains powered can either have a 9-volt replaceable battery backup or a 10-year lithium cell. Battery carbon monoxide alarms must have a 10-year battery. They cannot be a 9-volt replaceable nor a replaceable 10-year lithium cell. Fire alarms and carbon monoxide alarms within your property do not need to be interconnected with each other. For more information in regards to the Scottish legislation changes and to find an expert installer, please visit our website.
A massive thank you to Owen Terry there for explaining the changes to Scottish legislation. But that's all we have time for on the first episode of 2022. Please follow us on social media on the following channels:
LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and TikTok.
I'm glad she remembered them, but we hope to see you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you, goodbye.